Okay, Nur, it's a pleasure to have you here in our second international conference, and it was a pleasure to listen to you yesterday. It was really inspiring and enlightening. But can I just ask you maybe to give us some information about those 5 levels of reflection that you mentioned yesterday? My question is, how can we all benefit from these 5 levels of reflection?
Okay, thank you, Zeynep. Thank you very much for your kind comments. I feel it's a great pleasure for me to be here as well. Very inspiring conference. Okay, yes, in my talk yesterday I mentioned the 5 levels of reflection. These levels of reflection are levels that Ben and his colleagues have set, and these are, I should mention their full names as well. It's Ben, Ballantyne, Packer and Mills, the 4 of them colleagues. They were working with student teachers, and they helped improve the reflection of their student teachers' skills during field experiences. And when I read about this and their work, I thought I can actually use this in my own work as well at different levels. And I feel that their levels, the 5 levels of reflection, helps not just us as teachers, but our student teachers and also our students who are learning languages, be it EAP related or general English language and so on. So if I can maybe exemplify this, but maybe briefly also mention the 5 levels. As you remember, the first one was reporting the event as it occurred, so it's very narrative and descriptive in its nature. The second one is slightly above that, and it involves responding to the event in a spontaneous and emotional manner, so feelings come into it. The third one is relating the event to things that have happened in the past and your own past experiences and knowledge. Fourth one, reasoning about the event in terms of alternatives. And the fifth one is the level where you're looking at theories involved, so reconstructing that event that you're looking at and reflecting on in terms of theories that can be applied to a broader range of experiences. Now, if I start with the students first, okay, so our students, whether they are undergraduates or they are language learners of English, for example, if they were learning new vocabulary, we could encourage them to reflect on how they learn vocabulary. So they could be, for example, writing about what it is that helps them to learn vocabulary. But if they just write it in a descriptive manner, it might not necessarily be as effective as reflection. But for example, if we say, well, look, you can actually reflect in such a way where you look at your past experiences and how you learn from that while you were learning vocabulary, and what else you can do, what are the alternatives for learning vocabulary, it might actually make them think. So the reflection level changes. It becomes from more descriptive to a much more, what else can be done kind of level. So that's for the students. In terms of student teachers, and a lot of my work is with student teachers, I use these levels a lot. Making the student teachers aware that these levels exist means that, for example, they can, when they've done their teaching practice, surely they think back and feel, okay, oh, that bit was okay, but that bit wasn't okay. How can I change that bit? But as they're doing that, rather than just think what they can change and what went well, if they think what went well and why it went well, but liaising it, also linking it rather with the levels that they will know about, it will give them much richer reflection, a much deeper reflection. And it does, and that's what I see when because, for example, if the text comes back to me from the teacher who has reflected on their teaching practice, saying what they did in class and what happened as a result. I say, okay, well, how did you feel as a result of that? So that pushes them up at another level. And then, so what else did you do in the past that you could have done that would have helped you in that particular situation? And are there any alternatives? What are they? How would you benefit from those alternatives? And in the theory that you know about this particular issue, from methodology, for example, how does it relate to what you did? And what are other alternatives? And I feel that these levels of reflection are very useful for us as teachers and teacher educators as well. For example, when I go into class, recently I was teaching a course design related, to my master's students, a course design session. And I tend to, after each session, and we all do that, sort of think what went well in that lesson, and oh, maybe I could have done it this way. So I know now what I can change when I do that particular lesson with another group cohort of students in the future. So it's like continuously reflecting on our experiences, but knowing that these different levels exist, I think helps us.
So it's like, you know, kind of integrating Kathy's suggestion of dialogic journals.
Exactly,
right?
and in fact, and I'm glad you mentioned that. I have actually used dialogic journals, but this is now going back until about 5 years ago. I did this very regularly with a group of students. This was student teachers, yes, and it works very well. They were weekly journals, and they used to hand those journals to me on a Friday. I would spend Saturday, Sunday, like Kathy was saying, how time-consuming it can be, but it's actually enriching as well, because we learn so much from what they've written. So, and then on the Monday I would return it to them, not correcting the content of what they, but responding to the content. Okay, and you would learn so much, like for example, how they're feeling about doing the course itself, you know, where they feel they're at, and you know, picking up affective issues very early on in a course. It can be very, very useful. So, and now that well, the levels of reflection, I became aware of these levels of only 3 years ago, and the dialogue journals I was using was until that 5 years ago I mentioned. So in the future, when I do more dialogue journal type work, I will be able to integrate this, which will be beautiful, because and something I did actually integrate, it wasn't dialogue journals, but something related where it was, I don't know if you're aware of, well, you might have heard of this Pebble Pad. It's an e-learning, e-portfolio system. And I have used journal type work via Pebble Pad, so virtual learning type, where the student teachers were encouraged to reflect back on their teaching experience and write up every week about what it is they learned from that experience. And they wrote knowing those levels. And it did actually link beautifully. But I think writing dialogue journals on a day-to-day basis or a weekly basis more regularly, knowing these levels would be very beneficial for the students as well.
Then maybe here, can I ask you to give us some hints about how we can notice those critical incidents that you were talking about?
Yes. I think it's everywhere. I think it's in everything we do. Even something simple can be a critical. For example, at the moment we're sitting here, you know, you're asking me questions. For example, I might find part of it a critical incident at some point. It's how I look at it, how I create it. So critical incidents are not there to be sort of discovered. They are there to be created. They are around us everywhere. I mean, even for example, how I sit might be a critical incident for me, maybe. So it's
matter of being aware, maybe?
Yes, matter of being aware, more alert, and then stopping and thinking about it. That's so. Remember a quote I used yesterday about that we learn from reflecting on the experience. I think that relates to critical incidents as well.
Dewey's quotation, yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Thank you very much, Nur. Is there anything else you want to add to this?
Maybe I can, yes, thank you very much. I can add one thing I mentioned yesterday about the term critical incident, how sometimes it sort of reminds me of sort of much as if it has to be negative, and it doesn't have to be negative. And as you'll remember, I introduced a new term, which I like to use, curiosity instigated episodes. To me, curiosity has much more neutral and also, in a way, positive, because, you know, when you're curious, it can be sort of more enriching. So curiosity instigated episode is like critical incident in a way, and everything can be curious for us, couldn't they? So it helps us if we know that if we are curious, if we want to be curious, we will know to then find curiosity instigated episodes, so that we will find critical incidents as well.
It's in human nature.
Of course it is, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zeynep. Thank you.